Thank you.
This time, though, of course. So I'll keep this short and sweet. A very warm welcome, Yogini. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Philip. Thanks for the introduction and glad to be back at Switch On Enterprise Architecture Show. So thanks for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yogini, and I hope you're enjoying the sessions that we've been having since morning on the Switch On Enterprise Architecture Show. And as you see on the screen, I will be presenting today on the topic of how you can accelerate digital transformation in your organization as enterprise architects. But before we start, let me give a short introduction about myself. My name is Yogini, and I work as enterprise architect at Scania at Södertälje in Sweden here. And I have been in the IT industry for around 20 plus years now, and I'm also a Open Group certified enterprise architecture leader. And in the past, I have worked on multiple architectural domains, predominantly on the information and data architecture side of things. Um, However, I have in the last 25 odd years, I have been involved in all the aspects of enterprise architecture, including business, application, data, technology, and security. So let's dive deep into the agenda for the day today, and let's see what I will be presenting today to you. So, looking at the agenda, we will first discuss why we need enterprise architecture for digital transformation, how enterprise architects can accelerate digital transformation in their organizations, and what value does EA offer. And this is where I will be proposing a concrete action framework for enterprise architecture that can be used as guidance for the actions or the approach that you can take in your organization to enable and accelerate digital transformations. And then we will wrap up with some key takeaways. So before I start on the topic, I would just like to say that if you have any questions, please feel free to post your questions in the chat. We have around 25 minutes for the session today. We'll try to save a couple of minutes towards the end for the questions. However, in case we are falling short of time, I'll make sure to answer all your questions in chat. So please feel free to post your questions in the chat during the session. Great. So, as we know, digital transformation is a critical aspect of a long-term success for all the organizations today. And it's not just something that we need for survival, but it is something that puts you in the long-term success roadmap within your industry or within your domain. And why do we think that enterprise architecture can make a difference on the digital transformation side of things? As you know, enterprise architecture enables strategic and well-governed adaptable approach for digital transformations, which essentially helps to align the strategic priorities with the long-term business success and value realization. And this approach essentially helps you to ensure that technology is the enabler for the long-term success and transformation in your organizations. And there are different ways in which enterprise architecture can do this, such as integrating emerging technologies in your roadmaps for transformation, giving a comprehensive view of the whole of the organization, including the business and technology landscape, enabling the stakeholder engagement across all the layers in the organization, improve decision making, adaptability in terms of technology adoption, and giving the direction to the digital transformations, and a strategic alignment. So these are just some areas where enterprise architecture can bring in value, and that is why we think that enterprise architecture is a very important component of digital transformations today in all organizations. So, looking into how enterprise architects can do this and can help accelerate the digital transformations in their organizations, there are some key areas where we can add value and uh, make these digital transformations successful in your organization. The very first one that is the very foundation of the success for digital transformations is making sure that we have aligned objectives, business objectives, and we have a clear um, vision, architecture vision that aligns with your business strategy, so that the the blueprints and the roadmaps that you design are essentially translating into a digital vision that will contribute to a specific objective towards the end of the transformation. So essentially aligning all the work that you do from the enterprise architecture perspective with the business strategy and the vision that you have ahead for transformation. And the second aspect is through enhancing the architecture governance within your organization. Because when you have effective governance, it makes sure that the architecture decisions or the transition roadmaps that you kind of follow are aligned with organizational values, risk appetites, and also brings in a transparency while uh, we consider the architecture aspect from the compliance point of view, which is very important in today's world. So, having a structured governance model and decision trees and having hierarchies in terms of architecture and having uh, a direct connection of your architecture decisions with your transformations takes you a long way. The third area here is adaptability and iterative improvements. And how we can do that is by taking an iterative approach, which allows EAs to continuously refine the architecture in response to the evolving business needs, so that the new capabilities can be included for the digital transformation initiatives, and it enables ongoing improvements in the architecture for the needs that you have on the digital transformation side. The fourth area is how you can integrate the emerging technologies and frameworks. Of course, EA is not the only way to do that, but EA is a very important element there because how EA can bring in value here is by making sure that innovation is and the new technologies are considered as part of the roadmaps ahead, and makes your transformations resilient and aligned with the industry standards with agility and adaptability. So essentially balancing the conflicting demands and using appropriate trade-offs to balance this paradox of continuous transformation and operational efficiency. So that is where EA can step in. And the last, but most important aspect is the communication aspect, where we can build stakeholder engagement and bridge the gap across multiple teams, either technical or business. And in an organization, enterprise architects are those rare teams who understand both technical and business languages. So we can leverage that strength to make sure that we bridge the gaps between the technical and business teams. We um, speak the right language to communicate what would be the change impact with the transformation that we are aiming at, and how it would impact different parts of the organization, speaking the language of the stakeholders that we are involved with. And what this does is that it builds, once people understand what we're talking about and what the transformation is about, it builds an environment of trust, and you get a buy-in from executives and the other key stakeholders, which makes these transformations smoother. And that is why the last aspect is stakeholder alignment, where the alignment across all organization levels, including IT, leadership, operational areas, helps you overcome the natural resistance that people have for change. Because when they understand what this change means to them and what impact it will have, we have buy-in from all of these organizational levels, and it builds collaboration within the organization, which essentially accelerates transformation. So this was a little bit about how enterprise architects can accelerate digital transformations. Now, coming to the most important part of this session, where I will be presenting a concrete action framework that you could use in your organization and customize for your relevant context within your organization for a specific transformation. But before we dive into that, I just want to take a minute to just refresh on what is a framework and why do we call this a proposed action approach as framework and not a methodology. So, as you see, framework is a reusable structure or set of best practices that can be used as guidance, and it allows flexibility and adaptability to make customizations based on your specific business context or needs. And methodology is more of a structured approach with very specific steps and rules and principles, which may be a bit rigid and prescriptive, but which is more relevant for specific contexts. So you can always use this framework that I will be proposing to you now to build methodologies in within your organizations for your specific context. But when you look at this framework, just look at it as a high level view of guidance of what actions you can take at each stage of transformation within your organization. So let's look into what this action framework is all about and what value EA can offer through these concrete actions at every stage. Um, on the screen right now, you see different stages that are possible within the a specific digital transformation initiative. And if you talk practically, it's not always starting from the very initial stage within your organization. You could be at any stage out of these, and it's not always that EA is involved right from the beginning. So no matter at what stage of the transformation you are engaged in your organization, you can always use this as a guidance to see what are the concrete actions that you can take, irrespective of whatever stage you are on. So, in an ideal scenario, if you are part of the transformation from right from the beginning, then you could start initially from influencing the business vision and strategy by defining specific goals and identifying the success metrics for the transformation. And we will dive deeper into each of these actions and the possible outcomes. But at the outset, you could see that these are some high level stages where you can take these specific actions. So, if I have to dive deeper into each stage, let's start with business vision and strategy. And as I already mentioned, this would be logically a very initial stage in the transformation where you can start bringing in value by defining clear transformation goals and identifying the key business drivers and success metrics for the transformation. And the outcome of this would be to have clear business objectives and a clear architecture vision aligned with the digital transformation. The next step in the transformation could be where you start looking at the enterprise architecture view within the organization. So, as a part of EA assessment, you can analyze the as is state and get a common view of what is the as is state for a business, data, application, and technology side. And as a next step, you can identify what are the gaps in the current capabilities and what is it that you would need for these transformation goals to be successful, and get a clear understanding of what are the gaps that you have and where do you stand today. On the target architecture design side of things, this is the next step. Once you have an understanding of what is the as is and what are the gaps that you have, so then you design a kind of target view of what should be the architecture that will support these transformations, and is it really aligned with the business strategy and business prioritization, business priorities. And then we define clearly what are the capabilities and high level solution architecture that would move the needle in the transformation initiative. And of course, this could include considering new technologies, APIs, cloud solutions, any innovation solutions that would be critical for the transformation initiative. And an outcome of this would be a clear target architecture that supports the digital transformation vision. The next step or the stage would be the most important, where you have the roadmap and planning phase, where you identify what is the roadmap ahead from the architecture point of view. How does the transition happen? How do you plan the transformation or the transition in a realistic way? And this is where you define incremental transition roadmaps and prioritize the initiatives based on what impact it has, and also try to identify the quick wins through the foundational projects, because you do need a buy-in from the leadership team, and also need to uh, kind of show where we are moving, or how we are moving towards the transformation. So identifying some quick wins from the means of architecture is a very good idea to get that buy-in and make sure that enterprise architecture is actually involved until all the way towards the value realization stage of transformation. And the outcome of this is a phased realistic transformation roadmap, which aligns with your um, transformation initiative and the goals that you have identified for the success. Then comes, once we have clarity on the architecture side of things, then you need to look at the governance and compliance aspects, which are I would say very, very important in today's world with so many regulations and standards that industries need to comply with. This is a very important value add from the EA perspective in terms of making sure that it is part of the transformation itself and it is taken care uh, proactively instead of trying to fix it reactively after the damage is done. So, as a part of this, we can establish robust architecture governance structures for decision making and standard enforcements within the initiative, and also continuously monitor the compliance with data security and other regulatory standards, which are important or significant for the transformation in question. And then the outcome would be controlled and compliant transformation progress, which I would say is not an option, but is absolutely a must-have in today's transformations. And then we reach a stage where we are into the execution phase, and we start implementing and iterating to see um, what best or how far we have reached. And uh, at this stage, I think the very important action from the enterprise architecture perspective would be to ensure continuous collaboration and communication between IT, business, and enterprise architecture teams, and try to incorporate the agile methodologies and the adaptability and flexibility to make sure that we are also incorporating any changes that would be required for the success of the transformation. So, as a part of this, of course, communication is important, but also make sure that the projects are executed in the phases and the transition plan that we had designed in the earlier stages, and also align the the outcomes with the transformation initiative or the goals that we have. And the outcome of this stage would be to have an agile and iterative implementation of digital transformation projects, which again, I would say is very important in the dynamic world today that we have. And then finally, when it comes to monitoring and checking how far we have reached, use technologies such as analytics and measure the performance metrics and initiatives that you had defined in the first stage, gather feedback from your business stakeholders, see how relevant is the transformation, and then adjust the architecture accordingly as based on the feedback that you receive for the changing requirements. And finally, you demonstrate the value through alignment with the digital transformation metrics defined in the strategy, and make sure that the customer satisfaction is taken care of, and the operational efficiency and competitive edge are also looked into for the final outcome of transformation. And then this goes into a cycle. But as you can see, these are some concrete actions that you can take, and just use this as a reference for you. You can always add more things based on your specific context and the scale of transformation that you are involved in, or you can always see if you want to, if there's only a part of it that you want to contribute to, but use it as a standard framework or guidance that will help you identify the concrete actions. So now, with just a minute left, I want to wrap up with some key takeaways for this session. And from what we discussed, as you know, enterprise architecture enables effective governance, change management, risk management, and exploitation opportunities across the organization. So it is a must-have for accelerating digital transformations. And most importantly, it helps in addressing the paradox of continuous operational efficiency along with business transformation by striking the right balance across the conflicting demands and using the appropriate trade offs. And this helps you take control and use technology as an enabler for accelerating digital transformations. So, with that, I would like to wrap up and say that if you are not involved in the digital transformations in your organizations, take charge today and make sure that you are part of these transformations, because you can really accelerate this transformation as through the enterprise architecture practices. So that was a short presentation from my side on this. Please feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn, and on the screen right now you see my QR code to my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to reach out to me. Thank you. And I'm just looking into the chat if there are any questions. Okay, I see Pirlo is saying, could you give some real example of actionable act? Sure, I can send out some maybe some scenario-based plan to you, Perillo, but I think that was already covered towards the end of my session. So feel free to reach out to me for any specific inputs that you would need on that. And
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Yogini, for a super interesting session. Lots of claps coming in, so everyone's very much happy with the session. So, a big
thank
thank
you,
you for
Philip.
joining us again.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say that if we did not have enough time for questions, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to connect with you and maybe have some open discussions. And
Wonderful.
thanks, Philip, for the opportunity. Thank
A
you so
pleasure,
much.
absolutely a pleasure. And what Yogini says in terms of connecting is what this